And on the line with us, I believe, is Mike Lux. We have Mike's, yeah, right? Okay, cool. He is a partner in Democracy Partners. He is the author of 2 books, The Progressive Revolution, and a brand new book out just this week, How to Democrat in the Age of Trump. DemocracyPartners.com is his website. Progressive Lux, L-U-X, is his Twitter handle. Mike, welcome back to the program.
Great to be here. It's been a while. How you doing?
It has been, and thank you for joining us. So tell us about your book, How to Democrat in the Age of Trump. How do you do that? How do I do that? How do we do that?
Well, first of all, on the title, we believe Democrat ought to be a verb. We believe that Democrats need to be in action, need to be doing things, need to be moving.
They need to be democrating, to turn it into a gerund.
So we're turning it into a verb. The idea of the book is this, Tom. Democrats have blown it in the last 10 years. The table was set for us in 2008. We just won 2 big elections. The country knew that Republican trickle-down policies sucked, and we could have done so much more. And the fact that we didn't, I think, has turned the tables. All the demographic trends that were going our way are still going our way. The fact that people agreed with us on most issues. Over the last 10 years, we haven't won elections in spite of all those things. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason is that we are not delivering for our own constituents, and we're also not talking to people in a way that deals with people honestly. I mean, my biggest single piece of advice to Democrats is you have to be direct with the American voters. You have to take on the tough issues and talk openly about what's going on in this country right now. You have to talk openly and address issues of race and class and economics. And the fact that we're avoiding tough issues is killing us in the polls.
Well, one of our YouTube commenters, James Vickers, was commenting about some of the corporate media that portrays itself as being left-leaning. And he says, artificial left, not really left, except on gays, guns, and abortion, and maybe immigration. But the genuine left issues that FDR really created as the foundation of the Democratic Party, worker, pay, distribution of income, you never hear discussion of those things in corporate-owned media. And by the way, we had, Mark Pocan comes on this program every week for an hour and takes phone calls. You know, he's the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, representative from Wisconsin.
Mark at my party last night.
And yeah, and he has pitched himself and other members of the Progressive Caucus literally hundreds of times to the networks to come on and talk about these economic issues, these pocketbook issues, these fairness issues. Is it right that billionaires are getting richer when working people are actually behind the debt of millennials, free college education for everybody, Medicare for all, and literally the networks will not book Democrats on those topics. They are only willing to book Democrats, by and large right now, if they're willing to talk about Donald Trump or about Russia.
Yeah, I think that's right. The media is a huge part of the problem. I think that Democrats, because they're desperate for the media, they allow themselves to get played sometimes. But there's no question that the corporate-owned media is a big part of the problem. I think we need to, and Tom, you and I have discussed this for years, I think we need to take advantage of our own progressive media. We need to go online. We need to go person to person online. We need to use all of the kind of progressive media that we can to get our message out. And I also think candidates need to be very clear and very strong in this environment to talk about the issues that really matter. Classic example, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they break through when they talk about economic issues because they're clear about what they're saying. They say it in strong, decisive, bold language. And so when they talk about it, the media almost has to listen. They also are able to create their own media in a sense. Bernie's Facebook page, Elizabeth's Facebook page, and working with Facebook pages and other media outlets like Act TV and Attention, your show. That's how we get our message out, and I think we can get our message out by using those media. And we also just have to keep all of us have to keep holding corporate media accountable.
Yeah, I don't think holding them accountable is something that's even possible any longer. I think that it's time for the Sherman Act, but that's a whole nother conversation.
I do agree with you on that, and my book talks a lot, actually, about antitrust and Sherman Act related issues. Monopoly is such a huge problem in this country, and I think if Democrats get power again, that's one of the very first things that we ought to be doing is taking on the monopolies.
And you know, Schumer was waving that flag for a while a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if some of his big donors came along and said, or if he's just kind of waiting for the opportunity, because Chuck Schumer can be he can be very progressive, or sometimes he's not, you know. But you know, I'm kind of, you know, I don't dislike Chuck Schumer at all. The guy knows how to play politics and knows how to play hardball on the one hand, and has given some extraordinarily progressive speeches. On the other hand, I have not seen him taking names and kicking ass the way that I think the Democrats need to be doing. And it's not just him. And maybe he is, and the media is simply not reporting it. Because that's what I'm hearing, you know, from Pocan and from Keith Ellison and others who have sincerely tried to break through the media filter. But the media, they're perfectly willing to allow Democrats to portray themselves as the party that is concerned about the rights of black people. In fact, they're enthusiastic about that. They're perfectly willing to allow Democrats to portray themselves as the party that are concerned about the rights of gay people and trans people. In fact, they're enthusiastic about that. They're perfectly willing to allow Democrats to portray themselves as the party that cares about immigrants. In fact, they're enthusiastic about that. Because all those things cost nobody anything in terms of their advertisers and the corporations themselves. And all those things are being weaponized against Democrats by Republicans. But they will not allow Democrats to come on and talk about, the minimum wage. They will not allow Democrats to come on and talk about, executive pay, particularly in this era when the media are just as bad as anybody else in terms of executive pay. They will not allow Democrats to come on and talk about the horrors that are being done against unions. They will not allow Democrats to come on and talk about these a minimum wage, a guaranteed basic income, government as employer of last resort. These are real big issues that historically have hugely won elections for Democrats, to the point that in 1954, Dwight Eisenhower wrote a letter to his brother Edgar in which he said that should any political party say that they are going to do away with Social Security and unemployment insurance and farm programs and things like that, and there's basically wage protections and unions, should any party ever say that, they will never be heard from again. And he says, I know there's a small number of oil men in Texas, the Hunt brothers come to mind, who think that this is possible, but their numbers are small and they're stupid. That was because back in the 50s, if somebody had come along and said that, it would have made the news. But now it's like, the Democrats are being portrayed as the party of affiliation with basically minorities. And the Republicans are being portrayed as the party that represents everybody else, particularly the white majority. And it's really not the case. The Democrats economically have always represented everybody to a large extent. You shouldn't say always, certainly since the 60s. And well, arguably since the 30s, although, if you bring race into this, since the 60s. But the average American doesn't know that because that's not what they're hearing from their media.
Well, I of course think you're right, Tom. I do think we need to sharpen our own message on economics. I think we allow ourselves to get pulled off sometimes into some of those other issues. But if you look at the way, this is obviously it's not a presidential year, so it's a different kind of dynamic. If you look at the way local races are being run, more and more Democrats are doing a good job of running on economic issues at the local level.
You're right.
And forcing the conversation at the local level, which is why, by the way, I think we've been doing better in local elections. We just won another big special election last night in Missouri. We're winning special elections across the country. And
especially when genuine progressives run, as opposed to, you know,
right.
kind of middle-of-the-road, squishy, who knows what you really believe kind of Democrats.
Well, exactly, and especially the ones who do talk about the kind of economic issues that you're talking about. I think in 2020, when it gets to 2020, we will have a Democratic debate, a primary debate. It's going to be the most wide-open primary in a very long time. We're going to have a lot of candidates. They're going to have a chance to lay out an agenda. And in my book, I talk about what I think that agenda ought to be. It won't shock you, Thom, at all to know that I think it's got to be mostly framed around economics. And I think you even frame issues that some people refer to me in a ridiculous kind of way as identity politics. You frame those issues around economics as well. Criminal justice reform. You don't think that, you know, if anyone thinks that the for-profit prison industry isn't the driver behind the terrible criminal justice system we have in this country, they're smoking something.
Well, but, you know, here's another one. You know, the Kochs and others are promoting this mens rea thing, where, you know, they say, yeah, sure, we'll let some people out of prison. You got to change the law, though, so that when corporate CEOs make decisions that cause people to die, if you can't prove that they intended to kill those people, you can't put the CEOs in jail anymore. And that mens rea stuff has been built into every one of these bills that even Democrats are for. I'm not even sure that they're aware it's there because the media won't talk about it.
Well, I will tell you that this actually came up a couple years ago when everybody on both sides of the aisle was pushing criminal justice reform. And I will say something positive about my Democratic friends.
Very quick, please.
The reason that it died is because Democrats in the Senate stopped it because of that provision.
Because of the mens rea. Good. Mike Lux, democracypartners.com. Progressive Lux is his Twitter handle. The new book is How to Democrat in the Age of Trump. Thank you, Mike.